when you do DMT, it stands out in that it does not feel like what you would call a hallucination. Even people who are familiar with psychedelics, hallucinations are usually slight or long departures from what you already see, right? So if you have a surface with a particular, kind of texture on it or a color, psychedelics would play with that. So they would emphasize it. They would make it do something that it doesn't usually
the reality.
enhance, and maybe move it a little bit and maybe create some kind of a. When you do higher doses on things like mushrooms, for example, and this is where differences between the psychedelics actually matter, because acid doesn't do the same thing. People think it's similar, but it's not at all. With mushrooms, you can get to, what you would call more convincing hallucinations. Things that are truly not there, but you see them very clearly. DMT really stands out in that the level to which the visual scenarios are concrete is one that really starts begging the question whether or not it's really in your head or is it actually coming from somewhere else, because it's extremely coherent on its own right, and it does not seem to be a derivative of anything that you're familiar with. The building blocks from which it's made out of, they're not here. It's not like a departure from the texture or from the color.
Well, can you give me an example? Because when you say building blocks, I'm imagining there is space, there is some sort of objects.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me that the objects are completely the ones that you've never seen before.
Right. Yeah.
And everything just, like, how does it feel? Like, what's...
That's a great question. It's not just objects you've never seen before. It's the kinds of things that you didn't even know you can see. So it's
Give me an example.
It's hard because it sounds like a cop-out, but it isn't. It really is the equivalent of asking me to explain purple to you if you've never seen it before. There is no degree, there is no way that I can't use anything from the color, let's say yellow, okay, even within just the colors, to explain to you what purple is. I can't.
I understand.
Yeah.
Actually, I understand that completely. But maybe there are some characteristics or
so,
something where you can
of course,
point in the direction.
But I just want to create that frame.
No, it's actually a very good clarification.
Yeah. It is. So the best way I can maybe approach it is, there is a whole new set of kinds of experiences that the meaning of those seems to be aiming at a different direction of experience.
This episode is fueled by Enigma Coffee, a ritual, a reminder, a first step in your daily routine towards a more realized, fulfilled, and happy life. Drink Enigma Coffee, expand, enjoy, evolve.
So when you do certain things like, I don't know, smoke weed or something, right? You might get funny ideas or interesting ideas, something that you've never really thought before, but you can recognize it as a kind of a thought that you might have, right? It was like, oh my God, I never thought about connecting this and this. It's like, oh, it's brilliant, But with DMT, it really seems like it's coming from a different world. So Andrew Gallimore, who's a scientist who studies DMT, now he stepped away to do more of just writing, but he's a computational neuropharmacologist who studies psychedelics and DMT, or used to. And he wrote a few books. In his second book, Reality Switch Technologies, he makes he explains a really good model to look at the situation through, which is that the brain doesn't record information. I think this would actually give you a good understanding of how we should look at this. So the brain is not like a camera that is pointing at us right now. It's not recording information, okay? Your eyes pick up signals, and your ears and everything else. And then what your brain does, it basically consolidates it into world models. So in fact, everything you're seeing right now that isn't out of the ordinary, most of it is being the signals are coming from the outside. Your brain completely ignores them.
So basically, you're telling me, like in Mel Gibson's Apocalypto, the indigenous people did not see the ships. Because they're looking at the sea, but they're not seeing the conquistadors coming, because the ships is not something that they've ever seen in their life, so they're not even seeing it.
That's a really good frame to look at it through. It's almost that exactly, only your brain is actually actively doing this all the time. So for example, it's doing it to preserve energy. So basically, over time, the brain builds a world model, and it has a lot of you can think of it as slides of like a guesswork, right?
Yep.
And it says, I think it's this. And that requires almost no energy because it already has that placard. So it just points it up. It's like, I think it's this. If the information from the outside matches it pretty closely, it goes, perfect, good. So now it doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't have to translate signals. It's just like, okay, that's good. And then it keeps doing that all the time. Only when there's something that is different than what the brain thought, there's a whole system that goes, whoa, it's not what we thought. And then it goes, oh, okay, what is it then? So it starts to guess between the other placards it has that are kind of adjacent to it. And it usually pretty fast corrects for it, right? So now, right now, the setting and everything we're doing, we already know what to kind of expect. You're going to talk, I'm going to talk, you're going to talk, we're going to talk, we're going to laugh, we're going to do this. And then it's all expected, right? So it's within this frame. But if all of a sudden, I don't know, a raven flies through the window, right? Now that's very surprising. Our brain will immediately go into that mode of error correction. It's like, whoa. But eventually we'll correct it pretty quickly because it knows what a raven is. It knows what, a bird is, all of that stuff. But imagine if a three-headed triangle with a, something that's just so... But it's not even... I'm just using these words as an illustration to illustrate something crazy. But it's not even a triangle. It's not even a circle.
This episode is fueled by Enigma Coffee, a ritual, a reminder, a first step in your daily routine towards a more realized, fulfilled, and happy life. Drink Enigma Coffee, expand, enjoy, evolve.
It's some kind of a shape that is literally made out of, let's say, 4 dimensions, which you're not... But in that space, you understand it. You go like, oh, I know what the 4th spatial dimension is, which there's no way I can explain it, right? Mm-hmm. But you fully understand it. You can understand what is this like direction of in that is not into the 3-dimensional space. Therefore, it's like somehow into another 4th dimensional thing. So imagine shapes like this that make perfect sense to you. So what Andrew is outlining in the book is that purely from a neuroscientific perspective, not like, what people think, having extremely coherent content appear because of a perturbation to the regular machinery of the brain, it's highly unlikely because the brain is in the business of preserving energy. That would mean the brain would have to make up a whole new set of qualia and kinds of things and remap it into itself in real time, which never happens.
But then the question is, if the brain is understanding what it's saying and is able to compute, basically, then it has to have some sort of reference, as you were just saying with the plaques.
Not if you've never seen it before.
But how is because the thing is, it looks like it's the same brain, right? That's doing
what
this.
Does?
When the brain is on DMT versus not on DMT. So in normal life, the brain is doing its thing, conserving energy, looking at the objects, picking. If something is slightly out of the ordinary, it adjusts. When it's on DMT, supposedly what you're saying is a completely different reality that the brain was not exposed to before. And yet, correct me if I'm wrong,
Sure.
I'm understanding that when you are on DMT, and I've never been, so I can't relate, but I'm hoping you'll explain, is that it makes sense. So something for the brain has to make sense.
Yeah.
So if the brain has never done this before, how is it possible
You're
that
asking perfect questions. It makes sense because only to the degree that it has to. So it doesn't make sense. That's exactly the crazy part. That it's coherent, but it doesn't make any sense. So it's almost like the brain is encountering something it's never seen before. It's trying its best to use the libraries it has to map onto it. It's like maybe this, I don't know, maybe this. And it never lands on what it really is because the signals keep telling it, nope, guess again. And the brain goes, where I don't have it in my library. So it's trying to build it in real time, basically. So it's that kind of an experience. That's the way it's very, it's a lot. That's why it's a lot for people, because I think it's because of that. If, the very famous, people always share that when they go through like something very violent, like a car accident, let's say, people always report time dilation, right?
Yep.
So that is most likely due to the fact that when that's like a big event, plus the danger is at red. So the brain goes, throw away all the placards. We're now going to a new mode in which we're literally taking the information in real time. And that makes it feel like the time is much longer because usually where you are in time is slightly removed. So the brain has the time to guess. But now the brain collapses that distance and now you're in real time. Now it feels like that's the time that the brain actually has to actually deal with reality. So if you go beyond that point, like it went through that period and now it goes into this new period where like, I have nothing. Now it has to go into some kind of a special mode where it's doing its best, like a ransom note to like put like the best thing it can do over whatever it is, but it's clear to you that it's not what it really is. It's like way beyond that. And I think that's what's happening in the space. And this is why it's so difficult to nail down. And that kind of brings us full circle to what I've discovered. Because of this fact about DMT, it's the only substance currently that serious scientists are investigating, not just under the question whether or not it has therapeutic value, which is what the majority of psychedelic research is happening in the world, like Johns Hopkins, and like, can it help addiction, can it help all of that stuff. It's the only substance that literally universities and research facilities spending money asking the question, hold on, is this real? So this already existed. I didn't know it existed. I just had a set of experiences that were so realistic that everything I just described to you, I was doing this for many, many, many years. So I was very experienced with DMT. And I was always fascinated by these, phenomenological realms because it's just beyond anything you can ever possibly imagine. It's incredibly joyous and amazing to discover new things. But then all of a sudden, I started having sets of experiences that were that actually started making sense. So like it was beyond the point. It's almost like my brain found a way to now map the real thing.
And how did it map it?
So the first being that appeared for me, or what I think the more rational thing, because they are higher dimensional, they found a frame to match my brain in a way that does make sense. Like they also found a way from their side. And the first thing that happened was I had, like a frog guy that just appeared in my room right next to me. And he was as real as you. It wasn't like this crazy, which I really want to emphasize this point because it's important. That never happens in psychedelics. You never have like somebody who's standing there that is like tangible. Even if you're seeing beings, it's usually a presence or a feeling, or it's right here in the periphery.
So just to be exact, so when you're saying tangible, you can touch,
it
and
felt
your
like
hand
if I
would
would
feel.
That's what it felt like.
But did you touch, or it felt like you can?
I didn't, but there was enough there. So it's almost like you're asking me now,